Hello everyone, welcome to IPM IAS Academy's daily news highlights. Today is 26th July 2024. Let us see what are the important news for today's discussion. States have unlimited right to tax mineral-rich lands. The Constitution Bench holds that Parliament through Mines and Minerals Act cannot restrict states from legislating on the taxation of mineral lands, quarries. Any dilution will impact their ability to raise revenues. The verdict came in a batch of 86 appeals filed by different states, governments and mining firms and public sector undertakings. A 9-judge Constitution bench headed by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud on Thursday held by an 8:1 majority that Parliament cannot limit the power of state legislatures to tax mineral-bearing lands and quarries. The judgment freeing states from the restrictions imposed by the centre is in tune with the federalist principles of governance. So the Constitution Bench has clearly mentioned that it is the right of the states to raise the revenues, because when they are raising the revenues only they will be able to meet the projects or the works which are related with the welfare of the people. So for example, for improving the physical infrastructure, for improving the health, education, human capacity, research development, all these things require the necessary funds. So where do they get these funds? These funds can be generated from the revenue only. So this taxing is actually a method of raising the revenue. So in that area the Parliament should not interfere. The Parliament should not come with more restrictions on them. Fiscal federalism entails that the power of the states to levy taxes within the legislative domain carved out to them and subject to the limitations laid down by the Constitution must be secured from the unconstitutional interference by Parliament. There are provisions for Parliament to intervene, but the Parliament should note that raising revenues is an inevitable aspect of any government. If they want to continue with any of the welfare programs, if they want to continue with any of the administrative reforms, the revenue or the fund is necessary, and that fund is actually generated through taxes. So there they should not interfere. Chief Justice also mentioned that the state legislature derive their power to tax mines and quarries under Article 246, read with Entry 49, tax on lands and buildings in the state list of the 7th schedule of the Constitution. Mineral bearing lands fall within the description of lands in Entry 49, Chief Justice Chandrachud held. So if you are reading this article, you will get an idea about the constitutional provisions which are related with the taxation of mines and quarries. So these articles are important. So when you are reading these articles, please do note down the article, in which part they are actually coming, in which schedule they are actually coming. So all those things should be noted down. And here they are also mentioning about the Constitution Bench. So try to have an understanding about what is a constitutional bench, okay, in the Supreme Court. And they also mentioned that the majority, the decision was taken based on 8:1 majority. So what is that? What do they indicate by that? So all these things need to be understood. The article also talks about an important legislation that came in 1957, that is Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957. In various areas they are actually talking about this MMDR. So try to have an idea about MMDR also, because this whole decision is based on this MMDR Act only. So what are the important elements you need to understand? One is the Supreme Court Constitution Bench. What do you mean by Constitution Bench? And then the second one is the constitutional provisions which are related with the union list, state list and the concurrent list. And the third one is regarding the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957. So read about this. Try to write a small description about these points in your notes. And this news is actually coming in page number 1, General Studies 2, Indian Polity. Anti-defection law, 2 Jharkhand MLAs disqualified. On the eve of 6-day monsoon session, the Jharkhand Assembly Speakers Tribunal on Thursday disqualified 2 legislators under the anti-defection law with effect from July 26, 2024. So very important article. Why? Because they are talking about an important legislation, that is anti-defection law. So anti-defection law is coming under schedule 10th of the Indian Constitution. So here the speaker Rabindranath Mahato gave the verdict and disqualified both legislators from the assembly. So read this article. You will get an idea about what is the mistake they have actually done, and why the speaker or why the house is actually taking a decision like this. That is one area you need to understand. The other area is the anti-defection law. Read about the importance of anti-defection law, why anti-defection law came into being, and how it is relevant right now in the present scenario. Okay, and also try to have an idea about anti-defection law, an overview of the anti-defection law. Make your own notes regarding anti-defection law, the amendment which actually introduced anti-defection law. All these things are significant for the civil service examination. So please read this article and make your own notes regarding this. This article is also coming under page number 1, General Studies 2, Indian Polity. Happiness Committee to hear the case of Kerala judicial officers. So what is this Happiness Committee? The first meeting to be held today. High Court judge to head the committee. Announcement comes amid widespread resentment among the judicial officers of the state over a recent decision of the Kerala High Court to seek explanation from 100 officers who took 30 days of leave last year and 10 days this year. Okay, so we are trying to understand what is all about this Happiness Committee. The judicial officers of the Kerala harboring professional grievances can bring them before a Happiness Committee which will start functioning shortly. The welfare, happiness and grievances of the judicial officers of district judiciary will be headed by C.S. Dias, a judge of the Kerala High Court. The decision regarding the formation of the committee was announced at an online meeting of the All Judicial Officers Kerala convened by Acting Chief Justice Muhammad Mustaq on Tuesday. It was for the first time that a meeting of all the judicial officers of Kerala was convened by the High Court. The judicial officers can bring their grievances to the committee through the Registrar Judicial of the High Court. The first meeting of the committee will be held on July 26, sources said. The Principal District Judge Ernakulam, the Presidency of the Kerala Judicial Officers Association, the Registrar come Director at the Deputy Registrar IT will be the special invitees to the committee. So read about this article on Happiness Committee. So why it came into being. So the reason was around 100 officers who took leave for 30 days in the last year and 10 days in this year. So read this article. So the article is actually coming in page number 3, General Studies 2, Indian Polity. Jaishankar pushes for urgency in resolving standoff at LAC, line of actual control. In meeting with Wang, Jaishankar stresses significance of India and China as key economies of the world. Both ministers called for stronger guidance to officials to complete LAC disengagement. So we know that there is a problem that is going on between India and China, and that is related with LAC, line of actual control. For the second time this month, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi, with the two leaders highlighting the need to resolve the 4-year-old military standoff at the line of actual control with purpose and urgency. So it is a significant matter. Why? Because we need to resolve this issue as soon as possible. Both these countries are growing economies in Asia, and both these countries has its own presence in the various parts of the world. So they can influence the other countries in the world, especially if you take America is known to be one of the strongest countries in the world, is actually considering China as their enemy. Okay, so Russia is having a very cordial relation with China and India. US is having a very cordial relations with India, and other European countries are having a very good relation with India and China. Then if you take the Chinese investments in various parts of the world, you can see that China has its own investment in Africa, Europe, and in all other countries. Okay, their economy is really strong, and they are emerging as one of the finest and the strongest economies in the world. So in this context, context, having a problem between India and China will affect the development of both the nations, and it will also affect the development of Asia as a region. So it is very important for us to resolve this particular issue for the betterment of both the countries and our bilateral relations. So here with this article, what you need to understand is what is this line of actual control. Okay, it is a border issue that we can actually understand, but read about it. How this problem arise? What was the history of line of actual control? And now what is the present problem that is actually going on in LAC? So these things you need to understand from the perspective of this particular article. So this is coming in page number 4, General Studies 2, Indian Polity and also International Relations. So here is another important article that is actually dealing with the life of Christopher Thomas Kurian, known as CTK. Okay, he was a famous scholar economist of distinction and social conscience. So what was his contribution to the economics? That is very important. He was a lecturer and he was also a professor at Madras Christian College, and he was also the director of Madras Institute of Developmental Studies. So in various aspects of the economics as a discipline and in the academics area, his contribution is huge. Christopher Thomas Kurian, known as CTK to those who lives and the minds he touched, was one of the South India's finest and most influential teachers of economics. CTK's entry into economics was inspired by the vision of the Tryst with Destiny speech, and in particular Jawaharlal Nehru's exhortation that the service of India means ending of poverty and ignorance and disease and inequality of opportunity. So this is how he actually entered into, or he was actually inspired to become a part of this particular discipline. But after becoming a part of this discipline, when he started his journey as a teacher at Madras Christian College, and later when he pursued his PhD and other higher qualifications from various international institutes, he was able to contribute a lot to the discipline as such. Okay, so in 1978, CTK took the major decision to leave the Madras Christian College and become the founder director of the Madras Institute of Developmental Studies. Under CTK's distinguished and democratic leadership, MIDS became the first and foremost center for the study of the Tamil Nadu economy. This concentration on regional economics was reflected also in the books of CTK wrote over the period, including the dynamics of rural transformation, economic change in Tamil Nadu. After he retired from the directorship of MIDS, CTK was a national professor of the University Grants Commission and national fellow of the ICSSR. The books of his early retirement years, including The Markets in Economic Theory and Policy 1993 and Rethinking Economics, Reflections based on a study of the Indian economy 1996, were the product of many years of thinking about India's economy. He has also contributed a lot of other books and articles related to the discipline economics and specifically about Indian economy and the regional economy. So read this article and try to understand about the scholar economist C.T. Kurian. And this article is actually coming in page number 5, General Studies 3, Indian Economy. 2 halls in Rashtrapati Bhavan get names reflecting Republican ethos. Okay, so the President Draupadi Murmu has renamed 2 important halls of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, with the Darbar Hall now said to be called Ganatantra Mandap, which translates to Republic Hall, and Ashok Hall to be called Ashok Mandap. The Darbar Hall is the venue of key ceremonies and celebrations such as the presentation of national awards. The term Darbar refers to courts and assemblies of the Indian rulers and the British. It lost relevance after India became a republic. That is Ganatantra. The concept of Ganatantra is deeply rooted in the Indian society since the ancient times, making Ganatantra Mandap an apt name for the venue. The word Ashok connotes someone who is free from all sufferings or is bereft of any sorrows. Also, Ashoka refers to Emperor Ashok, a symbol of unity and peaceful coexistence. The national emblem of the Republic of India is the lion capital of Ashok from Sarnath. So read about this article and try to understand about Rashtrapati Bhavan. So what is Rashtrapati Bhavan? Okay, what are the important functions that are actually happening in Rashtrapati Bhavan? Okay, and what is the history of Rashtrapati Bhavan? Who constructed this? All these things are actually important. This news is actually coming in page number 6, General Studies 2 and Indian Politics. Addressing the risk factors could reduce dementia cases by 40%, the report said. So this particular article is mainly discussing about the growing number of senior citizens in our country and the various medical issues that they are actually facing. And one of that medical issue is dementia. Okay, dementia, a neurodegenerative disorder, a major cause of cognitive disability and dependency among the elderly, is expected to affect millions of Indian families over the next 2 decades. So this need to be resolved, and we have to take enough measures to tackle these problems existing in the country. The steady decline in India's total fertility rate over the past several decades has led to an increase in the proportion of older adults in the population. So this is also another growing concern that India is actually facing. There is a steady decrease in the total fertility rate. The country is also facing the crises which are actually connected with the age-related diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, vascular dementia, and other neurodegenerative disorders. So for all these problems, we need to find a solution. The older individuals with disabilities are prone to living alone, worsening social isolation and deprivation. A failure to address this could result in significant social and economic consequences. The key to addressing the dementia challenge is a proactive approach to risk factors like air pollution, which cause chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and neuroinflammation, contributing to cognitive decline and increased risk of dementia. You cannot look at it from the perspective of dementia as a disease alone. There are actually reasons for why this dementia is growing. There are actually reasons for why the old age population number is actually increasing. So we need to address these reasons, we need to address these causes, then only we will be able to find a solution for this problem. So read this article and try to have an understanding about the various the statistics they are actually mentioning here in the article, and also your own perspective regarding how you will be able to address this particular risk issue. This is coming in page number 7, General Studies 3, Science and Technology. The sporting extravaganza, the Olympics will keep the world occupied over the next fortnight. So read this article. This article is mainly discussing about the Olympics and about the Paris Olympics that is going to happen. And while addressing this, they are also talking about the major countries which are performing really well in the Olympics, and now what is happening in the present scenario, why Russia is actually not a part of this year's Olympics, and what are the opportunities for US, China, Japan, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, etc. in the Olympics, because they always come up with good results in the various Olympics that actually happened in the past years. So all those things are mentioned in this article. So read this article, try to understand about the Olympics, and also what are the preparations for the upcoming Olympics, that is Paris Olympics. And it is actually coming in page number 8, General Studies 2, International Relations and Sports. The geocalculus of the Moscow visit. So as we all know, there were problems related with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Moscow, Russia. Because the West is always looking at it with a lot of suspicion. They were actually criticizing India for this particular visit that actually happened right now. So 2 weeks after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Russia, his first bilateral trip in the third tenure of the government, the dust from the storm it kicked up in the United States and Europe is only just beginning to settle. The evident warmth between Mr. Modi and the Russian President Vladimir Putin drew sharp criticism from the Ukraine President Zelensky, and also a series of statements from the US State Department, National Security Advisor, and a US Ambassador to India expressing disappointment. New Delhi has asserted its freedom of choice but has moved to allay concerns that anything fundamental has changed in India's worldview as a result of the Russia visit. It would be a mistake, however, to assume that nothing has indeed changed. Purely by examining formal outcomes, in many ways, Mr. Modi's visit was the message itself. Okay, so this visit, mainly we were actually doing it for the for improving our bilateral relations with the country. So how the criticism is happening? The ongoing Russia-Ukraine war is the cause of the criticism, and that is the reason why they have actually banned Russia from the Olympics also. And in that context only, the Indian Prime Minister is visiting the country. So they always have that suspicion, because they also want India to take a stand like the West has already taken, or the America or the Europe has already taken. But we are not in a position to do that. And in a previous article, we also discussed about the strategic autonomy. Okay, so we are an independent and a sovereign nation, and we can actually take our own decisions. Okay, which is actually good for the country. So all those points we discussed, and now another point is related with the China factor. So nowadays we can see that Russia and China is having a very cordial relation. Okay, so that is also a threat for the whole world, and also specifically to India also, because India and China's relationship is there are a lot of problems associated with that relationship. And in the previous article we discussed about that is the LAC, line of actual control, is an ongoing issue between India and China. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we get the support of the Russians also. Okay, the Russian support should be there with us. Okay, it is not like Russia and China joining together and they are becoming a bloc or a group. So it should not be happening. Okay, we need, as an independent democratic country, we need the support of all these nations. Okay, especially Russia, because we are having a historical ties with Russia, especially in the matters of strategic and military relations. So we need to have that relation, and we need to maintain that relation. So that is the reason why this visit has actually happened. So read about this article and try to understand about the geopolitics in this region, because Russia is near to us, and China is also near to Russia. India and China are neighbors. So this region's geopolitics is really important, and how this geopolitics is actually affecting the West. In the case of India and Russia, always keep in mind we have a very cordial relation. We have a cordial relation in the case of military relations, economic relations, political relations. In all these aspects, we maintain a very good cordial relation. So that is the reason why we had this visit also. This is the first visit the Prime Minister has actually made after becoming the Prime Minister for the third time after the elections. Okay, so this particular article is actually coming in page number 8, General Studies 2, International Relations. India's illegal coal mining problem. Okay, so this article is very crucial. Why? Because illegal coal mining means they are not getting the legal sanction to conduct mining in that region. So when they are not getting the legal sanction, the safety measures and the security measures they are actually taking might be less, or they may not be having the safety measures, and that is the reason why many deaths are actually happening in these kinds of coal mines. In July 13, 3 workers died of asphyxiation inside an illegal coal mine in Gujarat's Surendranagar district. The official said that the workers were working in a mine near Bhed village in Tangad Taluka without helmets, masks or other safety equipment. The first information report indicated that the accused failed to provide essential safety gear to the laborers, who died after inhaling toxic gas in the mine. The police have registered a case of culpable homicide not amounting to murder against 4 people. Okay, so this is the problem. If it is illegal, they might not be following any of these safety measures, and if they are not following safety measures, it will be fatal for many of the workers. So read this article and try to understand what is this particular issue, and why is illegal coal mining rampant in India. So that is also a problem of concern, right? We know that it is illegal, but still it is actually happening. Why is it so? The coal is the most abundant fossil fuel in India, accounting to 55% of the country's energy needs. The high demand for the power in India translates into high demand for coal, which often outstrips the legal supply, prompting illegal supply. So that is one of the reasons that is actually happening. So read more about it, why this illegal mining is continuing in India, and why do so many workers die in the illegal coal mines. That is also another important issue. So safety reason is one thing, and sometimes accidents can happen in the coal mines. All those things will be taken into consideration. And why do governments struggle to cut down illegal coal mining in India? That is also another important area we need to understand. The high demand for coal, poverty, unemployment, weak regulations, and alleged political support contribute to the prevalence of illegal coal mining in India. So all these will actually give you a perspective about the coal mining problems in our country, and so you need to address it from various perspectives, right? Why it is happening, and why the government is not able to curtail this. What are the important steps we can actually take to solve this particular problem? So all those points you can take into consideration while reading this article. So read this article, make your own points regarding this, and also the important legislations which are actually connected with coal mining in India, that also should be noted when you are reading this article. So this article is coming in page number 10, General Studies 2, Indian Polity and Governance. What is behind Rwanda's election outcome? So this is an article which is connected to international relations, and already we had a discussion about this kind of an article in the 2-3 days back when we were discussing about the presidential election of the Paul Kagame, who has actually got 99% of votes, okay, in the elections. On July 15, Rwanda held its fourth presidential election since 1994 Tutsi genocide. The partial results released by the Rwanda National Electoral Commission revealed overwhelming support of the President Paul Kagame. With 79% of the voters counted, Kagame has secured over 99% of votes. Opposition leaders Habineza Frank and the Democratic Green Party and independent candidate Haimana Philippine secured less than 1% of the votes each. So this shows the people's support for Kagame, and when you are understanding the support for Kagame, you should know what Kagame has done to this particular country. Okay, so he might have come up with certain innovations, or he might have contributed to the well-being of the people, but on the other hand, there were a lot of other problems which he has actually created in the country also. So how did Rwanda politically progress? That is one particular area they are addressing in this. And then what has been the role of Kagame in this developmental process, and why do the election results what do the election results convey? Kagame's victory conveys wide-ranging support for his programs of economic progress and political stability. Given that Rwanda is still a developing country, Kagame's campaign resonated with the electorate aspirations for economic freedom and reaffirmed his successful record of providing stability needed for the development. Then another important area is, does Rwanda election hold any significance for Africa's democratic progress? Because as an important country in Africa, so does this election has any contribution to the continent's democratic process? The South Africa, Senegal, Chad, and Rwanda have completed their general elections. Others are heading to the polls. While South Africa and Senegal had free and fair elections, polls in Chad and Rwanda saw incumbents controlling opposition force. While reading about the Rwandan election, you should also understand about the history of Rwanda. Okay, the conflicts that actually happened in Rwanda, and what was the problems that were happening in Rwanda before 1994. And because the entire economy, it was a political turmoil, it was a complete chaos going on in the region, and after that only the Paul Kagame came into the elections and becoming a part of the government and all. So after that, what all changes had happened? Okay, so try to understand about Rwanda, the Rwandan history, and the contribution of Paul Kagame towards the development of the country, and why people are actually voting for the for Paul Kagame in the elections. That is also important. So in US, Netanyahu calls for global alliance against Iran. Another important news. The US and Israel must stand together, said Prime Minister in his address to a joint session of the Congress, adding that Iran was the axis of terror behind almost all sectarian killings in West Asia. So the Israeli Prime Minister is trying to get maximum support from US to go against or to make an alliance against Iran. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed Gaza ceasefire demonstrators on Wednesday and called for a global alliance against the Iranian regime. He accuses of funding them as he addressed US Congress divided by the war. So here in this whole address, Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to frame the Iran, okay, or he is actually accusing Iran as one of the sole reason for funding the infiltrators or the rebels in the Palestinian region. Okay, so and for this he wanted to get a tie-up or an alliance with the US also to go against Iran. Okay, so in this context we need to understand about the situation that is happening in West Asia and the history of Iran. Okay, so the US government was actually against Iran. There were sanctions on Iran previously. Okay, and what was the relation between Iran and Israel in the past? All these things should be noted down when you are actually writing this or writing about this particular article. So this article is coming in page number 10, General Studies 2, International Relations. Post-coup, Niger struggles with security and economic crisis. So here is an article which actually talks about the situation of Niger and how they are actually struggling with their security and economic aspects. When a group of military officers appeared on the state television in Niger 1 year ago to announce a dramatic coup, they said they deposed the West African nation's elected government for two key reasons: its security and economic crisis. But those challenged have persisted, even worsened. The country's 26 million people, among the world's youngest and poorest, are struggling after the junta severed ties with key international partners who have imposed sanctions and suspended security and development support, affecting close to half of Niger's budget. So this is the situation of Niger right now, and they are struggling. So read this article about the struggle which is going on in Niger. So, and also what is the location of Niger in the African map. So all these things are important whenever you are studying about an international issue, and if it is having some kind of connection with geography, please make sure that you take the atlas or the map and try to understand the location of that particular area. So when you are reading an article on Russia and Ukraine war, try to understand the location of Russia and Ukraine. Okay, when you are reading an article on Israel and Palestine issue, try to understand the location of Israel and Palestine issue in the West Asian region. So all these things are important. This is how we are actually learning, because understanding the location will give you a very clear idea about what is the politics there, what is the geography there, and how the natural resources will be helpful for them. All these things you will have an idea. So always, instead of just simply reading a news like that, make sure that you are doing the groundwork for it. Okay, one particular groundwork is the location, identifying the location. Another groundwork is the understanding the history of that. Another important one is how it is actually connected with the static syllabus. So this is the exercise you need to do when you are preparing for the civil services examination. So I hope this today's session was useful for you. So if it was useful, please do share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel, and also like and make your observations or make your suggestions in the comment section.